We're now joined by Michael McDowell, driver of the number 34 Front Row Motorsports Ford. We'll go right ahead and open it up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand and we will get the mic over to you. We'll start right here.
Crazy little camera you got there, Bob. Yeah. What the world? Yeah. Like it.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Michael, what do you want to get out of this weekend? What would make this weekend successful for you? You got a top 10 here in the fall last year.
Yeah.
Didn't get the Vegas result you wanted, but so what do you want? What would be a good weekend for you and FRM as a whole?
A win. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the generic answer, right? But, I mean, realistically, I mean, that's what it's all about. You know, this beginning of the season, these first 10 to 15 races, you're just hyper-focused on trying to get a win and trying to get yourself locked into the playoffs. So, obviously, that's not going to happen every weekend. It's not going to present the opportunity every weekend. So, maximizing the points and making the most of every race. These first 5 to 6 races are really critical, and we've had a okay start, but not a great start. So I feel like we need to come out of here feeling pretty good about where we're at.
We'll go in the back to Bob.
Hey, Michael, Bob Francis, Go Full Throttle Racing News. With 3 poles for the Ford teams coming into this weekend and the practice time that is available to the Cup drivers today, is that going to help you guys dial in the car and try to get that first win for Ford this week?
Yeah, so I think that, this weekend, obviously having this new aero package on the short track, downforce levels, is good that we have a little bit of time to work through it. Obviously, there was a test here in early December, right? Sometime in December. Mm-hmm. But we weren't a part of that at Front Row. We get manufacturer notes and things like that, but they're trying different tires and different downforce settings and all different kind of situations. So I think it's important that we have a little bit of practice just to kind of learn, what this car is going to behave like with this diffuser and splitter and everything. So I'm glad that we have practice, and anytime that you have an opportunity to dial it in is good. I've seen it go both ways. A lot of times I feel like one of the things that our team does well is unload pretty close. And when you have practice, the really good teams seem to dial all their cars towards the front. So it's not always a help. But this weekend we definitely could use the practice.
Go ahead.
Michael, Steve Post from Motor Racing Network. This practice session you have today, the alliance with Team Penske, are there punch list things? Are you guys tied into them during this? How does this new partnership work when we look at this 50-minute practice you have today?
Yeah, definitely we're tied in information-wise and sharing that information of what we could possibly learn and try different things. But I think everyone's pretty much on their own agenda, if that makes sense, because each team kind of has their own punch list of things that they want to try, whether it be different setups or different packages. But obviously, the more data and the more data points that you have helps you make a better decision, come Sunday. But this practice is tricky because we don't get a lot of them. And so, my crew chief, he's like, I want to try these 3 packages. And I'm like, I just want to tune on one and make it good, But I understand we don't get a lot of opportunities to try different things. So we got to take the opportunities when we get them. But tonight is going to be one of those difficult nights where you go through all that information, decide which direction you want to go.
We're going to go to Bob, and then Lee, and then over here to David.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. First, so with the new alliance with Penske, are you guys working with them on as far as like, hey, what's in your car, what's in our cars, to do anything different during this practice?
Yes. I mean, yes and no. I think that kind of goes back to Steve's. It's like we can see what they're doing. They can see what we're doing. We had a meeting prior to getting here on, directionally what everybody's thinking. But at the same time, it wasn't like you're going to do this, 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 and we'll come together and we'll make one package after that. I think everybody individually, each car number individually is kind of trying what they want to try, and we'll take the notes when we're done.
And what would you want to see on Sunday that would make you say, okay, the change to this package is successful?
Well, that's a really difficult question because I think the championship weekend, the fall race was pretty good. I don't know what the overall consensus were, but it was good racing and it seemed like a decent amount of passing. So if it was better, that would be great. If you could run closer to cars and run in, like we see kind of Xfinity, where you can run in their tracks and not lose so much. You're always going to be at a disadvantage when you're that trailing car, but maybe not quite as much. But I feel like the fall race was pretty good when they didn't treat the track, when they didn't put the sticky stuff down. I felt like we could move around and pass. So, I'll be curious to see how it drives.
We'll go to Lee, and then David, and then to Dustin.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. Michael, can you give me a quick assessment of the performance of the number 34 team so far in 2024?
Yeah, I think the speed has been great. I think our execution just hasn't been very good, and that's on me. And last week we didn't execute well. Less on me last week. But the good news is we have speed, and speed makes up for a lot of things. And we just got to keep that speed up throughout the year, and then clean up some of the things that we've had troubles with. And I think we'll be in a good spot to contend for wins. We're not there today. But we might be there tonight. I'll let you know after this practice, and I think that's the good thing is we're pretty close with everything. And so we just have a few little areas to clean up, and I think we'll be able to, put ourselves in a better position, especially as we get into the summer months.
And you have to be excited about going to COTA. Thoughts on COTA, and how do you feel about them moving the restart line?
Yeah, so I am excited about COTA. Just in general, it's our first opportunity back at a road course, and felt like we had one of the strongest packages at the road courses. Obviously, updates for that as well as far as rules go, so there'll be a few things to jump through, but I don't think it'll be anything terribly different. Moving the restart and giving ourselves a little bit more opportunity to not be 9 wide going into turn 1. I've been on the good side of that, and I've been on the bad side of it. And, what's tough is for a competitor, you just want the fastest car and the fastest driver and the fastest team to win the race, right? As a fan, and as probably for y'all, you want to see action and excitement and cautions and crashes, and so the package and what we see, I feel like there had to be a little bit of a compromise, and I think that this is a good compromise, that you'll still have action, but not 9 wide going down in there and making a mess of a day. So I hope that it all gets a little bit tidier, but these end of the races restarts are always wild, so it's a part of it.
We'll come right down here to David.
David Bernauer, Arizona PBS Cronkite News. So last week we saw Noah Gragson have a really great finish at his home track. It seemed like a big moment for him. So for you coming back to Phoenix, personally, how much does it mean to you to have a good finish at your home track?
Yeah, it's obviously really important. I mean, every weekend's important, but it's nice when you run good in front of your hometown. And this hasn't been a strong track for me and for us in the past, but I feel like we turned that corner last year, especially with our short track program. And, we're able to get a top 10 here, which for us was a big day because this had been one of those tracks that we'd struggled at. So we made good gains last year, and we want to keep that up this year and put ourselves in contention. So it's fun. It's good to have a strong day. I probably don't think about it too much as far as the, hometown thing, because I'm thinking about points and trying to get a win, and every week counts. But it's nice when you have a good day.
All right, we'll go over here to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. As the organization has grown and developed, obviously you've had situations where you've won, you had situations have top 5s and top 10s, but it seems like maybe the next step, and maybe part of this is this relationship with Team Penske, is the consistency of top 15 finishes. And I think that's probably like one of the next steps for this team. Is that how you see it and how you get there, or is that taking too big of a look and it has to be more race by race and let it build upon itself?
So I think that I probably look at it a little different. And so if you look at, and don't quote my stats, you'll have to look them up. But 2022, we had 12 or 13 or 14 top 10s, right? So that's a decent number of top 10s as far as being there consistently. And then last year, I think we had 12. And then last year we had a little bit less than that. But last year we had more speed. So speed is what puts you in contention to win races. But that consistency that you talked about is really important too. I mean, I think that if you look at, we'll just use Joey Logano as an example, is even last year when they didn't have all the speed, somehow at the end of the races, they'd still be 4th, 5th, 6th. They just do an incredible job of executing and getting top 10. So I feel like the next logical step for us is having more top 5 speed. Because even if it's not every weekend, if you have 10 or 15 weekends that you have top 5 speed, you're going to win a race somewhere. Somewhere you're going to get it right, you're going to execute, get it all right, and you're going to win a race. And winning a race, there's such an emphasis on that in our series because it gets you into the playoffs and all the things it does. So for me, it's more about having those days of top 5 speed than it is having top 15 speed throughout the entire year, if that makes sense. I think they go together for sure, but I think just having more of that top 5 speed is what's going to allow us to contend for more wins.
And since you mentioned Logano, obviously you've been Ford teammates for a long time, so I'm sure there's information sharing, or at least some conversations have taken place over time. But as you know, the ability to get stronger as the race goes on, this relationship now, how can that help you guys to go through that?
For sure.
And not just Joey, but I mean, since you specifically mentioned Joey, you know, if it's more open door and kind of tapping how they do it. I know everything's not going to work for you, but
no, but it does. I mean, one of the things that, you know, behind the scenes, there's so much that goes on as far as, you know, just data analysts and engineers going through who did this well and who does this well, and the adjustments and how the track changes and how the car changes versus track changes versus traffic. And so much of that information, we can see it and we can get it. We just don't have people to process it all. So being able to lean on them a little bit more for that engineering support of processing that data will help us have a better understanding of trends, of how the track's trending, how the race is trending. And so that part of it for sure will help when you talk about getting better throughout the races and making the right adjustments and how the track changed and how the rubber went down and all those things. Like, we know it, we watch it, we see it, but there's teams of people that analyze just those types of things. So being able to lean on them more on that technical side for sure will help us to make better game day decisions and changes. So, but all that, like I've been talking about, is going to take a process of being able to go through the information, understand it, and then apply it, obviously. And so it's still early, but I feel like even this week we made really big gains at home, at the shop, on how well we were able to utilize the information. So we're making gains, and I think it'll get better and better every week. So
We're going to go in the back all the way to the left.
Brian Twining, Betsorts Media Group. Kind of along those lines of having top 5 speed. Last year on road courses, you were amongst one of the best, and in particularly when we didn't have stage breaks. As a driver who is good at road courses, would you prefer to not have the stage breaks as opposed to having them? And do you think that actually benefits the better drivers and the faster cars?
Yeah, so I think last year was a perfect storm for us as far as the no stage breaks and the amount of speed that we had, because the fastest car won those races. And this year that'll look different. And it'll look different because if you want to win a stage, you absolutely have to sacrifice your race finish. I mean, you do. That's not really even up for conversation anymore. You're not going to drive back through the field. And so you have to make a decision before you ever get to COTA. Are we going to go for stage wins, or are we going to try to win the race? Obviously, we're going to try to go win the race. So we know we're giving up potentially 10 to 20 points on the table to make sure that we have a shot at winning those races. Then you get spun with 3 to go, and you leave the day 30th with 1 or 2 points. And so you absolutely compromise your race with those stage breaks on road courses. And I understand it'll probably create more, excitement for the fans and for the people that are, watching and we're trying to entertain. But for me, selfishly, stage breaks are awful. I really dislike them. I'd rather just qualify up front and lead every lap, and there not be any caution. But I don't think the fans like that as a show.
Are there any final questions for Michael? All right. Thanks for your time, Michael. Good luck this weekend.